I was halfway through cutting my roast beef when my phone buzzed in my lap. The dining room was warm. Candles flickered on the table. My son Calvin was pouring wine into crystal glasses I hadn't seen in 2 years. Glasses that used to sit in my cabinet before Monica decided to reorganize everything. My daughter Beatrice laughed at something her husband Dean said, but her eyes didn't match the sound. Something felt wrong. The phone buzzed again. I kept my face still, fork hovering over my plate, and glanced down at the screen hidden beneath the tablecloth. It was from Lila, my granddaughter, the only one in this family who still looked me in the eye when she talked. The message was short. 6 words that made my blood stop moving. Grandma, don't react. They're recording you. My chest tightened. My fingers went cold around the fork. But I didn't look up. Not yet. I took a slow breath through my nose and forced my mouth into a smile. This meal is absolutely wonderful, Monica, I said, lifting my eyes to my daughter-in-law. You really outdid yourself, dear. She smiled back. That tight, thin smile she always wore when she was performing. Oh, it's nothing, Margaret. Just wanted to do something special for the family. Special.
Right.
I set my phone face down on my lap and picked up my wine glass. My hand didn't shake. I made sure of that. But inside, my mind was racing, tearing through every detail of the last hour. The way Calvin kept glancing at Monica. The way Beatrice wouldn't meet my eyes. The way Monica's voice had that sugar-coated edge whenever she said my name. Have you ever felt like a stranger in your own home? Like the walls you painted, the floors you scrubbed, the memories you built. None of it belonged to you anymore? That's what the last 3 years had felt like. Ever since Calvin and Monica moved into my farmhouse, saying they wanted to help me out. Saying I shouldn't be alone at my age. Saying it was for my own good. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. But nothing about this felt good. I took a sip of wine and studied the table. The silver cutlery I inherited from Walter's mother. The lace tablecloth I'd used at our anniversary dinners. Even the porcelain dove sitting on the shelf behind Calvin's head, a decoration Monica had brought in last month, saying it brightened the room. Was that where they hid it? The camera? Calvin cleared his throat. So, Mom, he said, leaning back in his chair like a man who owned the place. Monica and I have been talking. Here it comes, I thought. We've been thinking about the future, he continued. About the farmhouse. About what's best for you. Monica nodded, her smile still glued in place. It's just that maintaining this property is getting so expensive, Margaret. And at your age, it's a lot of responsibility. At my age, as if 72 meant I couldn't tie my own shoes. We thought maybe it's time to consider something more manageable, Monica added, her voice soft and sweet like poisoned honey. A senior community, perhaps. Somewhere with people your age, where you wouldn't have to worry about upkeep. Beatrice looked down at her plate. Dean suddenly became very interested in his napkin. My grandkids, Lila's cousins, stared at their phones like they'd been told to stay quiet. This wasn't a family lunch. This was an ambush. And what happens to the house? I asked, keeping my voice light. Curious. Like I didn't already know the answer. Calvin and Monica exchanged a glance.
Quick.
Practiced. Well, Calvin said slowly, we take care of it. Keep it in the family. You know how much this place means to us. Means to them. The house Walter and I bought 43 years ago with our savings. The house where we raised our children. The house where Walter took his last breath, holding my hand, telling me to be strong. They wanted it. And they were willing to record me, to manipulate me, to paint me as some confused old woman so they could take it. I smiled again. Wider this time. That's very thoughtful of you both, I said. I'll certainly think about it. Monica's shoulders relaxed. Calvin reached for his wine, confident. Victorious. They thought I was fooled. They thought silence meant surrender. But they didn't know me at all. Because 72 years on this earth had taught me something important. The most dangerous weapon isn't a raised voice or a clenched fist. It's a calm smile and a patient heart. If they wanted a performance, they were about to get one. What would you have done if you got that text? Would you have been able to keep smiling, or would you have confronted them right there? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know if you're as strong as Margaret. 10 years ago, Walter died in our bedroom on a Tuesday morning. The sun was coming through the curtains. Birds were singing outside like nothing was wrong. He squeezed my hand one last time and said, "Maggie, you're stronger than you think. Don't let anyone make you forget that." Then he was gone. I didn't cry at first. I sat there holding his hand for an hour, maybe longer, just remembering. Remembering the day we met at the county fair when I was 19. Remembering how he proposed on a bridge over Miller's Creek with a ring he'd saved 6 months to buy. Remembering the fights, the laughter, the mortgage payments, the Christmases, the scraped knees, the graduations. 52 years of a life built together. And then nothing. People don't tell you that grief doesn't just take the person. It takes the future you thought you'd have. The plans you made. The conversations you were supposed to finish. Walter left me the farmhouse, the rental properties, and enough savings to live comfortably. He also left me a letter. I keep it in my nightstand, folded and worn from reading it too many times. "Maggie, our children are good people, but money changes folks. Don't give them everything just because they ask. Make them earn your trust. And remember, you don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting what we built." I should have listened harder. The first year after Walter died, Calvin called every week, checking in, asking how I was doing, offering to help with repairs or bills. It felt good. It felt like love. But then the calls changed. "Mom, are you sure you can handle the property taxes this year? Mom, maybe you should sell one of the rental units. It's a lot of work for someone your age. Mom, have you thought about what happens if you get sick?" Fear disguised as concern. That's what it was. When Calvin suggested moving in 3 years ago, I hesitated. But Monica was so sweet about it. She hugged me and said, "Margaret, we just want to make sure you're safe. Family takes care of family." So I said yes. Big mistake. At first, it was small things. Monica rearranged the kitchen cabinets without asking. Said she was helping me stay organized. Then my favorite china set disappeared. She claimed it broke during cleaning. I didn't believe her, but I didn't fight it either. Calvin stopped knocking before entering my bedroom. Started making decisions about the house. What color to paint the shutters, which contractor to hire for the roof, without consulting me. Like I was a guest. Like this wasn't my home anymore. One night, I mentioned Walter during dinner. Talked about how he used to make pancakes every Sunday morning, burning half of them because he always got distracted reading the newspaper. Monica smiled that smile. "Oh, Margaret, you tell that story a lot. Maybe we should focus on the present instead of the past." Calvin nodded. "She's right, Mom. It's not healthy to dwell." I looked at my son. My firstborn. The boy I rocked to sleep. The man I thought would protect me. And I realized he wasn't on my side anymore. That summer, Lila came to visit. She was 24 then, fresh out of college, still young enough to see the world in black and white. She sat with me on the porch one evening while Calvin and Monica were in town. "Grandma," she said quietly, "I don't like how they talk to you." I patted her hand. "It's fine, sweetheart. They're just trying to help." "No," she said, sharper this time. "They're not. They talk about you like you're not there. Like you're less." I wanted to argue, to defend my son. But deep down, I knew she was right. "People show you who they are," I told her. "You just have to be patient enough to see it." She nodded. But I could see the worry in her eyes. I should have acted then. Should have drawn a line. But grief makes you tired. Loneliness makes you grateful for crumbs. And I was both. So I stayed quiet. I smiled. I played the role of the grateful mother who needed rescuing. That was the day I realized my house no longer felt like mine. If family ever made you feel like a guest in your own home, hit the like button. You're not alone. The invitation came on a Wednesday. Monica walked into the living room where I was reading and handed me a cream-colored card. Fancy paper. Gold lettering. "We're having a family celebration," she said, "this Sunday, to honor Walter's memory and bring everyone together." I looked up at her. "A celebration?" "Yes." She smiled. "It's been 10 years since he passed. We thought it would be nice to remember him properly. Beatrice and her family are coming too." Something in my stomach twisted, but I nodded. "That's very thoughtful." She squeezed my shoulder. Her nails pressed into my skin just a little too hard. "Wonderful. I'll handle everything. You just show up and enjoy yourself." Enjoy myself. Right. The days leading up to Sunday felt strange. Monica was in the kitchen constantly, cooking and preparing. Calvin brought out Walter's favorite wine from the cellar, a bottle I'd been saving for a special occasion that never seemed to come. Beatrice called me Friday night. "Mom, you okay?" "Of course," I said. "Why wouldn't I be?" She paused. Too long. No reason. Just checking in. That pause told me everything. Sunday arrived bright and warm. The kind of May afternoon Walter loved. I wore a simple blue dress and the pearl necklace he gave me on our 30th anniversary. When I walked into the dining room, I stopped. The table was set like a magazine spread. White linen tablecloth. Crystal glasses catching the sunlight. Silver cutlery polished until it gleamed. And there, in the center, a framed photo of Walter smiling in his work clothes, hammer in hand, standing in front of the barn he'd built himself. My throat tightened. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Monica said from behind me. I wanted everything to be perfect. Perfect. The word felt wrong in her mouth. Beatrice arrived with Dean and their 2 kids. She hugged me, but her body was stiff. Her eyes kept darting to Calvin. "You look tired, Mom," she said. "I'm fine. You sure?" I squeezed her hand. "I'm sure." But I wasn't. Not even close. We sat down. Calvin at the head of the table. Walter's spot. Monica to his right. Me at the other end, like a guest at my own table. Beatrice across from me, quiet and pale. The meal started normally enough. Small talk. Weather. Work. The kids scrolling on their phones while the adults pretended not to notice. But then I felt it. That crawling sensation on the back of my neck. Like being watched. I glanced around the room. The walls. The shelves. The decorations. And there it was. That porcelain dove Monica had placed on the shelf last month. Small. Delicate. Innocent. Except it was angled directly at me. My pulse quickened. But I kept my face calm. Kept chewing my food. Kept nodding along to whatever Calvin was saying about interest rates or property values or some other nonsense designed to sound responsible. Then my phone buzzed. I set down my fork slowly, pulled the phone into my lap under the table. Lila's message lit up the screen. "Grandma, don't react. They're recording you." The room didn't change. The candles still flickered. The wine still poured. But everything felt different. I looked up. Calvin was watching me. Monica was smiling. I smiled back. "This meal is wonderful, dear," I said. And then I waited. Because I wasn't the confused old woman they thought I was. I was the wife of a man who taught me to measure twice and cut once. To watch. To listen. To act only when the moment was right. I looked up, smiled, and realized I was sitting in a trap. Stay tuned, because what happens next will leave you speechless. Monica dabbed her mouth with a napkin and leaned forward. "Margaret, since we're all together, there's something Calvin and I wanted to discuss." Here we go. I took a sip of water. Slow. Deliberate. "Of course, dear. What's on your mind?" Calvin cleared his throat. His voice had that rehearsed quality, like he'd practiced this in the mirror. "Mom, We've been thinking a lot about your situation here, about the farmhouse. My situation? I repeated, keeping my tone light. Curious. The upkeep, Monica jumped in. The expenses. The responsibility. At your age, it's just a lot. At your age. There it was again. That phrase they kept using like a weapon. Beatrice shifted in her seat.
She wouldn't look at me.
We care about you, Calvin continued. And we don't want you to feel overwhelmed. So we've been researching some really nice senior living communities. Places with activities, medical staff on site, people your age to socialize with. I smiled. That's very thoughtful. Monica's eyes lit up. She thought I was agreeing. There's one about 30 minutes from here. Sunset Meadows. It's lovely. We could tour it next week if you'd like. And what would happen to the house? I asked. The question hung in the air. Calvin exchanged a glance with Monica.
Quick. Practiced.
They'd prepared for this. Well, he said carefully, we'd take care of it.
Keep it in the family.
Make sure Walter's legacy is preserved. Preserved. As if putting me in a home and taking my house was honoring anything Walter stood for. We've actually been thinking we could move in permanently, Monica added. Give the place the attention it deserves. Maybe even expand the garden. Rent out a few rooms to cover costs. My house, my husband's house, turned into a rental property while I rotted in some beige-walled facility eating pureed vegetables. I nodded slowly. I see. You're not upset, are you? Calvin asked.
His voice was softer now.
Manipulative. We just want what's best for you, Mom.
Dean spoke up for the first time.
Margaret, have you talked to a lawyer about any of this? Monica's smile tightened. Dean, we're just having a family discussion. No need to bring lawyers into it. But Dean pressed on. I just think Margaret should have independent advice before making any big decisions. Calvin shot him a look that could freeze water. Beatrice touched Dean's arm. A warning. He went quiet. I watched all of this. Every glance. Every tell. Every micro-expression. They'd planned this. Rehearsed it.
And Beatrice knew.
She'd known all along. Well, I said finally, I appreciate your concern. I really do. But I think I need some time to think about this. Monica's jaw tightened. Just for a second. Then the smile returned. Of course. Take all the time you need. But her eyes said something different. They said, we're not asking. Calvin refilled his wine glass. Confident. Comfortable. Like this was already decided. There's also the matter of your will, Monica said, her voice casual. Too casual. Have you updated it recently? My heart stopped. But my face didn't move. Why do you ask? Just thinking ahead, she said. Making sure everything is in order. You know, in case something happens. In case something happens. Not if. In case. Like they were waiting for me to die. Or worse, planning for it. I set down my fork, folded my napkin, smiled that grandmother smile I'd perfected over 7 decades. I'll look into it, I said. Monica nodded, satisfied. Calvin raised his glass. To family. Everyone clinked glasses. Even Beatrice, though her hand was shaking. I raised mine too. To family. But inside, my mind was racing. Because Lila was right. They were recording this. Every word. Every expression. They wanted me to lose control.
To yell. To cry.
To give them evidence that I was too old, too emotional, too unstable to manage my own life. They wanted to paint me as the problem, but I wasn't going to give them that.
Not today.
Not ever. Because 72 years on this earth had taught me something Calvin and Monica never learned. The quietest person in the room is often the most dangerous. They thought I was confused. I was just calculating. What would you do if your own family tried to take everything you built? Comment, Justice, if you'd fight back quietly like Margaret. Lila called me at 10:30 that night. I was sitting in my bedroom with the door locked, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word from dinner. My phone lit up with her name, and I grabbed it like a lifeline. Grandma? Her voice was shaking. I'm here, sweetheart.
I'm so sorry, she said.
I shouldn't have come today. They made me promise not to say anything, but I couldn't just let you walk into that. I closed my eyes. Tell me everything. She took a breath. Monica called me last week. Said they were planning a family lunch, and I had to be there.
She was weird about it.
Kept saying it was important. That you needed support. Support for what? That's what I asked. And she got all vague. Said you'd been forgetting things. Getting confused. That they were worried about you. My stomach turned. I haven't forgotten anything. I know, Lila said quickly. I know, Grandma. That's why I got suspicious. So I showed up early. And I saw Monica setting something up in the dining room. The dove. Yes. Her voice dropped to a whisper. It's not just a decoration. There's a camera inside it. I watched her angle it toward your seat. She was testing it with her phone. A camera. Hidden in something beautiful. Something innocent.
Classic.
She saw me watching, Lila continued. And she smiled and said, Oh, Lila, I'm just making sure the table looks nice. But I knew. So, during lunch, I texted you. I didn't know what else to do. You did the right thing, I said. My voice was steady, but inside I was shaking. Not from fear. From rage. What are they trying to do? Lila asked. I didn't answer right away, because saying it out loud made it real. Made it worse. They want to prove I'm unfit, I finally said. They want footage of me losing control, getting angry, looking confused or unstable. So they can use it against me. Against you how? To take the house. Maybe to challenge my will. Or to push me into signing something I shouldn't. Lila was quiet for a long moment. Then, that's evil. Yes, I said. It is. What are you going to do? I looked at the photo of Walter on my nightstand. His smile. His carpenter's hands. The man who built everything we had from nothing. I'm going to beat them at their own game, I said.
How?
I told her. Not everything, but enough. Enough to make her understand that her grandmother wasn't the fragile old woman Calvin and Monica thought they were dealing with. When I hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. Then I opened my laptop and sent an email to Mr. Henley, Walter's lawyer. The man who'd helped us draft our will 30 years ago. The man who'd sat with me after Walter died and told me, Margaret, if you ever need anything, I'm one call away. I typed carefully. Dear Thomas, I need your help. It's urgent. Can we meet this week? Privately. There are some changes I need to make. I hit send. Then I walked downstairs. The house was dark. Calvin and Monica had gone to bed hours ago. I stood in the doorway of the dining room and stared at that porcelain dove on the shelf.
Small.
Delicate. Innocent. I walked over. Picked it up. Turned it in my hands. Sure enough, a tiny lens. Hidden in the bird's eye. I smiled. Because if they wanted proof I was unfit, I'd give them proof they were unworthy. I set the dove back exactly where it was. Same angle. Same position. But tomorrow I'd go shopping. And I'd buy one of my own. If they wanted proof I was unfit, I'd give them proof they were unworthy. If you're loving Margaret's calm revenge, hit that subscribe button for more stories like this. Mr. Henley's office smelled like old books and coffee. He was 81 now, with white hair and glasses that slid down his nose when he read. But his mind was sharp as ever. He'd been Walter's friend before he was our lawyer, and that loyalty never died. Margaret, he said, closing the door behind me. I got your email. What's going on? I sat down in the leather chair across from his desk and told him everything. The lunch. The recording. Calvin and Monica's plan. The pressure to move into a senior home. The questions about my will. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. Those bastards, he muttered. I almost laughed. Mr. Henley never cursed. Can they do this? I asked. Legally? Record you without consent. He shook his head. Not in this state. But that's not really the point, is it? They're building a narrative. Even if the recording isn't admissible in court, they can use it to pressure you, to manipulate family members, to make you look incompetent. That's what I thought. He leaned forward. Margaret, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Are you having any memory issues? Any confusion? Anything they could actually use? No, I said firmly. I'm 72, not senile. I pay my bills on time. I manage my properties. I drive. I cook. I remember everything. He nodded.
Good.
Then here's what we're going to do. He pulled out a legal pad and started writing. First, we're going to set up a trust. A revocable living trust with you as the trustee. We'll transfer your assets into it, the house, the rental properties, the savings. Everything. Why? Because trusts are harder to challenge than wills. And if Calvin and Monica try to claim you're incompetent, we'll have medical documentation proving otherwise. I'll arrange for you to see a doctor this week. Cognitive assessment. Full physical. We'll create a paper trail showing you're of sound mind. I nodded. This was smart. Second, he continued, we need to think about who gets what when you're gone. Have you decided? I didn't hesitate. Lila, my granddaughter. She's the only one who's been honest with me. All of it. Most of it. I'll leave Beatrice something small. She's weak, not evil. But Calvin? I shook my head. Nothing. Mr. Henley smiled. Understood. Now, what about the short term? What do you want to do about the recording? I reached into my purse and pulled out a small box. Inside was a porcelain dove, identical to the one Monica had placed in my dining room. I bought this yesterday, I said. It has a camera inside. His eyebrows shot up. Margaret Ellington, are you telling me you're going to counter-record them? Yes. He laughed. Actually laughed. Walter would be proud. Walter would be furious they put me in this position, I said. But yes, he'd be proud. Mr. Henley leaned back in his chair, tapping his pen against the desk. All right.
Here's the plan.
You replace their dove with yours. You act normal. Let them think they're winning. And when they make their move, when they bring you papers to sign or try to pressure you into something, you record every word. And then we bury them. I left his office feeling lighter than I had in months. Not because the problem was solved, but because I had a plan. And a plan is power. That afternoon, I went home while Calvin and Monica were out. I walked into the dining room and stared at their dove. Carefully, I lifted it off the shelf, turned it over in my hands one last time. Then I replaced it with mine. Same weight, same color, same delicate wings. But this one belonged to me. I set it on the shelf, angled it the same way theirs had been, stepped back.
Perfect.
For the next 2 weeks, I played the part. I smiled. I cooked dinners. I asked Monica about her day. I told Calvin he looked tired and should rest. And the whole time, my little dove watched. They didn't suspect a thing. One night, I overheard them talking in the kitchen. I was upstairs, but the vent carried sound. She's calmer than I expected, Monica said. She's old, Calvin replied. She's tired. She'll sign when we push a little harder. When?
Soon.
I'm drafting the papers now. Once she signs over power of attorney, it's done. Power of attorney. The final move. If I signed that, they'd control everything. My money, my property, my life. But they didn't know I was 10 steps ahead. They were about to learn that silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. Monica called it a family check-in. She said it for a Saturday afternoon, 2 months after the first lunch. This time, there was no pretense of honoring Walter's memory. This was business. Calvin and Monica sat across from me at the dining table. No Beatrice. No grandkids. Just the three of us. And the dove. Watching. Monica slid a folder across the table.
Neat.
Professional. Margaret, we've been thinking. You've been under a lot of stress lately. We want to make things easier for you. I opened the folder. Legal documents. Pages and pages of fine print. What is this? I asked, keeping my voice soft. Confused. Power of attorney, Calvin said. It just means that if something happens, if you get sick or need help, we can step in and handle things for you. I frowned, pretended to struggle with the words. I don't understand. Why would I need this? Monica leaned in, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Because, Margaret, you're getting older. And we love you. We don't want you to be overwhelmed. This way, if you can't make decisions, we can make them for you. If I can't make decisions. As if that day had already come. What kind of decisions? I asked. Financial ones, Calvin said quickly.
Medical ones.
Just everything. So you don't have to worry. I stared at the papers. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from rage. But I made it look like age. Like confusion. I don't know, I said slowly. This seems like a big step. Monica's smile tightened. Margaret, it's really for your own good. We've already talked to a lawyer. It's all legal. All proper. Your lawyer or mine? Calvin blinked. What? Did you talk to your lawyer or my lawyer? Monica's jaw clenched. We talked to someone we trust. Someone who has your best interests at heart. Translation. Someone they paid. I picked up the pen they'd left on the table, rolled it between my fingers. Where do I sign? Calvin's face lit up. Right here, Mom. And here. And initial here. I held the pen over the paper, my hand hovering. They leaned in, eager, hungry. Actually, I said, setting the pen down. I'd like to read through this carefully first. Walter always told me never to sign something I don't understand. Monica's smile vanished. Margaret, we just explained it to you. I know, but I want to be sure. Calvin's voice hardened. Mom, we don't have all day. This is important. So is understanding what I'm signing, I said, meeting his eyes. Don't you think? For a moment, he looked like he wanted to argue. But Monica touched his arm. A warning. Of course, Monica said, her voice tight.
Take your time.
But don't take too long. These things need to be handled. They left the papers on the table and walked out of the room. I waited until I heard their car pull out of the driveway. Then I picked up the folder and took it straight to Mr. Henley. He read through it in silence. His face darkened with every page. This isn't power of attorney, he said finally. This is a transfer of ownership. If you sign this, they own everything. The house, the properties, the bank accounts, everything. Can they do that? Not legally. But if you signed it, they'd argue you did it willingly. And by the time you fought it in court, they'd have already drained your accounts and sold your assets. I felt sick. What do I do? He looked at me. You let them think they won. And then you show them what real power looks like. When I put down that pen, their smile said victory. They had no idea the camera was smiling back. I invited them over the following Sunday. Same dining room, same table, same dove. But this time I was ready. Calvin and Monica arrived at noon, dressed casually.
Confident.
Comfortable. They thought this was just another step in their plan. Beatrice came too. I'd called her earlier and told her she needed to be there. She tried to make excuses, but I insisted. Family business, I said. You need to hear this. We sat down. No meal this time. Just coffee and tension. So, Mom, Calvin started, have you had a chance to think about the papers? I have, I said. Monica perked up, and I reached into my bag and pulled out a small speaker. Bluetooth.
Portable.
I tested it 3 times to make sure it worked. Before we talk about that, I said, I want you to hear something. Calvin frowned. Hear what? I pressed play. Their voices filled the room. Monica, she's old. She's tired. She'll sign when we push a little harder. Calvin, once she signs over power of attorney, it's done. Monica. And then the house is ours. Calvin, finally. The color drained from Monica's face. Calvin's mouth opened, but no words came out. I stopped the recording. That was 2 weeks ago. In the kitchen. You didn't know I could hear you. Mom, Calvin started. I'm not finished. I pressed play again. This time, it was from the lunch 2 months ago. Monica steering the conversation.
Calvin pressuring me.
Their carefully rehearsed manipulation laid bare. When it ended, the room was silent. Beatrice was crying. Her hands covered her mouth. You recorded us? Monica whispered.
Her voice was shaking.
That's illegal. No, I said calmly. What's illegal is recording someone without their consent, which is exactly what you did to me. I pulled out the original porcelain dove, the one with their camera inside, set it on the table between us. Lila told me everything, I said. You planted this. You were hoping to catch me losing control, to build a case that I was unfit, so you could take my home, my money, everything Walter and I built. Calvin's face went red. Mom, it wasn't like that. Don't. My voice was sharp. Final. Don't insult me by lying. I have recordings. I have documentation. And I have a lawyer who's been very interested in hearing all of this. Monica stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. You can't do this. We're family. Family, I repeated. The word tasted bitter. Family doesn't manipulate. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't try to steal from the people who raised them. I stood too.
Slowly.
Deliberately. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to leave this house.
Today.
You're going to take your things and go. And you're never going to contact me again unless I reach out first. And if we don't, Calvin asked, his voice low and angry, then I take these recordings to the police, to a judge, to every family member and friend who still thinks you're good people, and I let the world see exactly who you are. Monica grabbed her purse. This isn't over. Yes, I said. It is. But I wasn't finished. There was one more surprise. Calvin and Monica stood frozen near the door, waiting for me to break, to apologize, to back down like they thought I always would. I didn't. Instead, I walked to the sideboard and pulled out a manila envelope. Heavy, official-looking. There's something else you need to know, I said. Monica's eyes narrowed. What now? I handed the envelope to Calvin. Open it. He hesitated, then tore it open, pulled out the papers inside, started reading. His face went white. What is it? Monica grabbed the papers from his hands. Her eyes scanned the page.
Once. Twice.
Then she looked up at me, her expression somewhere between shock and fury. You can't be serious. Completely serious, I said. The document was a legal transfer. Every asset I owned, the farmhouse, the rental properties, the savings accounts, the stocks Walter had invested in decades ago, all of it had been placed into a trust. The Lila Ellington Foundation, a charitable organization dedicated to helping elderly women who'd been financially exploited or abused by family members. You gave it away? Calvin's voice cracked. You gave away our inheritance? Your inheritance? I repeated. You never had an inheritance, Calvin. You had expectations. And those are very different things. Monica's hands were shaking. This is insane. You're punishing us because we tried to help you. Help me? I laughed. It was a cold sound, even to my own ears. You tried to steal from me.
You manipulated me.
You recorded me without my consent. You forged legal documents and tried to trick me into signing away my life. We were protecting you, Calvin shouted. From what? From making my own decisions? From living in my own home? From being treated like a human being instead of an obstacle? Beatrice finally spoke, her voice small. Mom, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know how far they were taking it. I turned to her. You knew enough. You sat at that table and said nothing while they ambushed me. You chose their side. I was scared, she whispered.
So was I said.
But I didn't let fear turn me into a coward. The words landed hard. Beatrice flinched. I softened, just slightly. I'm leaving you something, Beatrice. Not much, but enough. Because I know you're weak, not wicked. But you need to find your spine. Before life finds it for you. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. Calvin threw the papers on the floor. This is garbage. We'll contest it. We'll fight you in court. You'll lose, I said simply. I've had cognitive assessments done. Medical evaluations. I'm of sound mind and body. Mr. Hemley has documented everything. And if you try to fight this, those recordings go public. Every word, every manipulation, every lie. Monica grabbed Calvin's arm. Let's just go. But Calvin wasn't done. You'll regret this, Mom. When you're alone in this house with no one to take care of you. When you need help and there's no one there. I'd rather be alone than surrounded by vultures, I said.
He stared at me.
For a moment, I saw the little boy I used to know. The one who cried when he skinned his knee. The one who hugged me goodnight every evening. But that boy was gone. And the man standing in front of me was a stranger. Get out of my house, I said quietly. They left. Monica slammed the door so hard a picture frame rattled on the wall. I stood in the silence for a long time. Then I walked out of that dining room free, not from them, but from fear. Would you have forgiven them like Margaret did with Beatrice? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Lila moved in 3 weeks later. Not permanently. Just for the summer. But it was enough. She brought color back into the house. Laughter. Music.
Life.
We painted the porch together, laughing when we got more paint on ourselves than the wood. We baked Walter's favorite apple pie using his mother's recipe, the one written on a stained index card in shaky handwriting. We sat on the porch swing in the evenings, watching the fireflies and talking about everything, her dreams, her fears, my past, our future. One night, she asked the question I'd been waiting for. Grandma, weren't you scared that day when I sent you the text? I thought about it.
Really thought about it.
Terrified, I admitted. But I've learned something in 72 years, sweetheart. The most dangerous people are the ones who think you're too weak to fight back. She nodded slowly. Do you miss them? Calvin and Monica? I miss who I thought they were, I said. But I don't miss who they actually are. There's a difference. What about your son? The real Calvin, I mean. The one before all this. I looked out at the fields. The barn Walter built. The garden we planted together 40 years ago, still blooming every spring. People change, I said. Sometimes money reveals who they always were. And sometimes grief makes you see things you ignored before. Either way, my job isn't to fix them. It's to protect myself. Lila leaned her head on my shoulder. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you too, I said. You could have stayed quiet. But you didn't. That took courage. I learned it from you. We sat like that for a while, the world settling into that quiet space between sunset and darkness. The foundation officially launched in September. We helped 4 women in the first year. Women who'd been pushed out of their homes by greedy children. Women who'd been isolated and manipulated. Women who thought they had no options. We gave them legal help, financial support, a safe place to land. And every time I signed a check or met with a new case, I thought about Walter, about his hands building this house, about his voice telling me to be strong. about his belief that love and loyalty were worth more than money. He was right. Beatrice visited once. Alone. She stood on the porch with flowers in her hands and tears in her eyes.
I'm sorry, Mom, she said.
I should have stood up for you. I took the flowers. Invited her in for tea. We talked for 2 hours. About fear. About family. About the choices we make when we're caught between love and loyalty.
I didn't forgive her completely that day.
Forgiveness isn't a light switch. But I opened the door.
And that was enough.
Calvin never came back. I heard through distant relatives that he and Monica moved 2 states away. Started over somewhere nobody knew their story.
Good.
Some people don't deserve second chances. Not because they're beyond redemption, but because giving them access to hurt you again isn't grace, it's foolishness. I kept Walter's photo on the mantle. Sometimes I still talk to him, tell him about my day, about Lila, about the foundation. I think he'd be proud. No, I know he would be. Because quiet justice isn't about revenge. It's not about making people pay or destroying their lives. It's about reclaiming your power without losing your peace. It's about standing up when the world expects you to sit down. It's about knowing that silence isn't weakness, it's preparation. And sometimes, the loudest revenge is a life lived in peace, surrounded by people who see your worth, protected by boundaries you refuse to compromise. I'm 72 years old. I've lived long enough to know that family isn't always blood, that love isn't always loud, and that the people who underestimate you give you the greatest advantage. When you keep smiling while the world plots against you, that smile becomes your sharpest weapon. And I'm still smiling. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life lessons wrapped in powerful storytelling. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another story like Margaret's. Stories of quiet strength, redemption, and the courage to protect what matters most. Drop a comment below and tell me, what lesson did Margaret's story teach you? Your words might inspire someone else who needs to hear this today. Until next time, stay kind, stay strong, and remember, silence is sometimes the loudest form of justice.